Hello, welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion of CSS. In the previous videos, we talked about using transition to animate elements, on a page. In this video, what I'd like to do is talk about CSS animation. So animation is another property that lets you animate things with CSS. And the goal here is to create this animation. So here I have an animation of these kind of petals that open up. So different here is rather than being interactive where I hover over something and then it begins to animate, and when I move the cursor off it reverses, right? And we could have done that here too. In this case, the animation runs from point A from the beginning to point B, the end, right? And then it stops there. So this is our end goal there. Let's get started. I'm going to create a new folder here. Let me create a new folder. I'm going to call this class 11, and I'm going to open the class 11 folder here. And then let's talk about the animation. Like, what do I have here? Well, this animation is created around a bunch of divs. So they're just empty elements, and then the style is making them look the way that they look. So I have one div here that's a container, that's a box that goes around the outside, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petal shapes. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to make a brand new HTML file and save this as index.html. Okay, and then let's create the structure of our animation. So our animation is going to have, actually I guess I need some HTML markup here. And the body tag. Pardon me. So there's the body tag there. And let's zoom in on that a little bit. And what do we need here? We need a div for the outer container. So that's going to be the box that goes around the outside here. And then I need a couple divs for the petals. Now again, we could try and use before and after, but they would not allow us to do an animation this complicated, right? Because there's too many elements here. Before and after would give us one element before and one element after. So in this case, I'm just going to make everything, right? And why don't we call this, why don't we give this a class name and call it flower? There we go, right? Or maybe it should be lotus. There we go, right? So we'll call that lotus. And then we can select these elements using one of the selectors like nth child or child or, descendant, okay? So that's pretty good. I'm going to make a style sheet for this example, and we're going to use this style sheet later. So I'm going to call this styles.css. Okay, so I've got my style sheet here, and then let's link our style sheet. So I'm going to add a link tag and set it to rel style sheet, and href is going to be styles.css. Okay, so now we're in a pretty good place to start. So there's our starting code, and I'm going to open this file. You can just open it in the browser. I'm going to right click because I have live server installed, so I'm going to right click and open up live server. Okay, so what are we going to do? You know what, let's actually add one more. Well, no, I'll add it later. I was thinking we need actually one more container here that we can use to position this thing in the middle of the page, but maybe I'll just save that and do that last. Okay, so let's get started. So our first task at hand here is to set the styles on the lotus. So this is the container. Let's give it a width of 300 pixels, a height of 300 pixels, and a border of 1 pixel solid. Okay, so there's our box, and now we have the petals that go inside. So let's say lotus, and I'm just going to say all of the child divs. We're going to give all these the same properties, okay? So we'll want to position them in the middle, and we'll want to give them some shape like size, right? And maybe round the corners off. So to position them, we're going to use the absolute position method. So I'm going to choose position relative on the parent, and then all of the children will be position absolute. Okay? And then let's decide like how big are they going to be. So if this thing is 300, they're going to be about 200 maybe. 200 by 150 or something. I don't know. Let's guess. So let's call them about 200. I'm going to say width of 200 pixels, height of 200 pixels, and then let's give them a border also of 1 pixel solid. Okay, so now there's the petals right there, but they don't look the right shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to round off 3 of the corners and then leave the 1 corner square, and that'll give us a kind of a petal shape. Okay, so let's say border radius, and border radius, you can do border radius left, top, right, and bottom, but if you just do border radius, you can do the upper left, upper right, lower right, and lower left. Okay, so if you put the 4 numbers here, this is upper left, and then we go around clockwise. Okay, so start in this corner and then we just work our way around. So let's say the upper left corner is going to be border radius of 0, so that'll be square. And then the upper right corner is going to be 50%, the lower right is going to be 50%, and the lower left is going to be 50%. Okay, so there's our petals, and we can round these off a little bit more. If we wanted, we could make maybe make this one like 70% to give it kind of a slightly different shape. Maybe leave that one 50. What if we do these at the 2 outer ones at a little stronger rounding, something like that? Then maybe that's a good shape too. You can play with the numbers here to get the kind of shape that you think looks best, right? So I'm going to go with this, and then what I want to do is I want to position them and so they're all in the middle. So if these are 200 by 200, right, and they're position absolute, if I set the left to 0 and the top to 0, oh wait, oh yeah, then they're going to be in the left and 0, right? Okay, so sorry, I was having a brain fart there. Yeah, if I set them to 0, then they're exactly where they're at when they begin. So if I set the left to 50% and the top to 50%, then the upper left corner is going to be in the center. So this is the center, but that's not quite right. I want to get like a point down here or maybe here to be in the center, or maybe a little bit lower, like right about here. Okay, so for right now, let's put it exactly in the middle. So let's take the middle here and move it to the center. So if we've set the left and top to 50%, you can use transform, translate, and translate negative 50%. Okay, so when I do negative 50% here, the 50% here is not related to the parent element, it's based on the size of the object. So if I had the upper left corner in the middle and then I translate 50% here, or negative 50%, then it takes half the width, 100 pixels, and moves it over, right? And so let's do a comma here and do the top as negative 50% too. And then that should put us exactly in the middle. So that's pretty good. And then if we had a little bit of a rotation there, we'd be pretty good. Now, again, we could handle this in a few ways, right? So let's do do some experiments. I'm going to do rotation of, maybe I have to rotate 45 degrees here, right, to get it straight up. So that's pretty good, right? And that would be exactly in the middle, except the corner at the bottom is rounded more than the top, so it looks like the top is closer, okay? So that's pretty good. So that's with transform there. Now, remember, we got to do all the transforms on one line, and then the order of these two things matter. We'll get a different look if I try and put the rotation first, right? Like that looks totally different, right? Because it rotated and then it moved. So we want to make sure we put these in the right order, okay? So that's looking pretty good. Again, this translate is kind of weird, right? Because we put the upper left corner in the middle and then we moved again, you know, using the translate rules. If we leave this out, we'll be over here, and we could actually use these numbers here also to position the object. So I'll leave that up to you how you want to handle it. But I think for simplicity, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to modify these numbers to put the thing in the middle, okay? And so what I'm going to do, since I know that these guys are 100 pixels, you know, or 200 pixels tall and 200 pixels wide, and I know the container's 300, to go over, to move it to the center, I can probably move it to, let's see, what is this going to be? It's going to be about left of 100 pixels, maybe, or actually it's going to be left of 50 pixels, right? Because I have 300 here minus 200 leaves me 100 pixels left over, and if I take half of that and put it on the left side, then I should have another 50 on the right side, and I should be in the center. And so we can do the same thing here. Since it's a square, it'll be the same number. And now we're in the same place, right? That's going to simplify the transform here, okay? That transform translate negative 50% is useful too. So in some cases, you might want to choose that. But for simplicity, I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, and then, you know, this is kind of nice because maybe I can also very easily take the top here and then move it down a certain amount. So instead of 50 here, maybe I'll make this like 80, right? Or maybe that's too much. Maybe I'll make it 70. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now let's style each of the petals individually. I'll leave that up to you. You can decide how to do it. You can stop the video now and try that as a challenge. Okay, so how did you do? And there's several different ways you could do this. You could give each one a class name. You know, I'm going to do it this way, though. I'm going to choose Lotus child div, and then I'm going to do nth child. Okay, and let me do this like that, and then I'll say petal number 1, petal number 2. Petal number 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I'll just make 5 of these. So this is the first one, the second one. Remember, nth child uses 1 as the first index, right, instead of 0. A lot of programming stuff uses 0, right, but not nth child. So so let's style the first petal. Maybe I'll give it a color here. I'll say you're going to be background color, let's see, let's do RGB. I'm actually going to do RGBA, and we'll do red of 255, green of 0, blue of 0, and then I'm going to give it an alpha, so the color itself will be transparent. You could use opacity, but if you do, then the border would be transparent also. Okay, and any other elements inside there, but doing this makes only the background color transparent, right? So I'll do that, and then maybe on the next one here, the second one, I'll make this one 255, so that'll make it kind of a yellow color. Now they're stacked up so it looks kind of orange, right? And next, I'll make this one green. And then we'll make this one kind of maybe a cyan color, right? And then maybe the last one will be blue, okay? So there's kind of my colors there. I kind of got red, yellow, green, cyan, and kind of a blue or indigo color, right? So that looks pretty good, but they're all stacked up. Let's rotate them now. So what we'll do is we'll override the rotation here, and we'll have to do some calculations to get the angles, right? So I think the first one right here is going to be, I think this one is going to be negative 45 degrees. Yeah, maybe something like that. Like that looks okay, right? And then the second one is going to be maybe 0, right? So I got this guy here. And then the third one will be 45 degrees. So actually, maybe I can even just take this out of here. Actually, I'll just leave that there for now, right? And this guy will be at 45 degrees. Wait. For some reason that one's not showing up. Well, let's not worry about it for right now. And then we'll fix it in a moment. Oh no, yeah, actually that one's in the middle. That looks correct, right? So then this one is going to be 45 degrees plus another 45 degrees. It'll be 90 degrees, right? And then our last one is going to be 90 plus another 45, so it'll be 135 degrees. Okay? So that looks okay. Needs a little bit of work to get the positioning right, okay? So what's happening here is we're rotating around the center. And with the shapes that we have, what we really want to do is we want to rotate around a point that's a little lower than the center, right? And so what we can do is we can use the transform origin property, okay? So transform origin sets the center point or the center of transform, right? Or the center where these transforms are applied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose transform origin, and then I'm going to set where the origin is. So let's put the origin at 0 and 0. So here you can see all of the petal shapes rotate around their upper left corner, right? Remember that was the corner that has a sharp angle on it, right? So what if I wanted to move that, right? So I could move it, let's say, halfway to the center of the object, right? So remember, our objects are 200 pixels wide, so I'll set the X transform origin to 100 pixels. And now it's a little hard to tell, but really, if you follow this guy down like this, you'll see that this is like halfway. It should be in the kind of in the middle of the petal, right? And now let's move the Y. So let's set the Y to 100 pixels, and now we're back to where we were, where the transform is in the center, okay? So let's go a little bit lower. Let's, instead of 100, let's do 150, okay? Actually, that's kind of interesting. I kind of like that. It's not quite what I was looking for, right? But, you know, and let me point something out. So, like, if I turn off the rotation, right, let me actually do this. What if I just comment all this stuff off right there? Like, this is what we kind of have right now, right? Remember the, let me turn off the rotation up here too, right? Remember our objects are rotating, oops, I guess I gotta comment that guy, right? Our objects are rotated 45 degrees. So if I move the transform origin, I put it here, it's kind of at a weird angle. So it actually has to go a little more to the right. Like, imagine that we want to move the origin point on a diagonal to here, right? If we just move it to the center and then down, we're going to end up over here, right? So I got to move it a little further over to put it on the diagonal. So let me uncomment all of these guys, and let's move it here on the X to 150. And then that's looking pretty good, though I'm a little off center now, so I can fix that, right? So so this is getting pretty close to where we want to start. Maybe I could have made these a little smaller to begin with. Let's go to the left here and then move them. Let me move these guys over. What if I put them at 20? Oh, wait, I gotta go. Maybe actually I just gotta put that 0. Actually, yeah, I guess that's pretty good. I guess I made them a little too big. No big deal though, but that's looking pretty good. So let's hold on that as our beginning, and then you feel free as a challenge to modify this and customize the size and shape of all the elements, you know, in any way that you like. And then in the next video, we're going to add some animation where it looks like they open, okay? And we'll use CSS animation to do that, okay? So here's what I have so far is I have the styles for the lotus itself, and then I have a style for each of the petals. And then for each individual petal, I added a separate style using nth child, and I set the color and a different rotation for each petal, okay? And that's everything. So again, thanks for watching and have a great day, and then I'll see you in the next video.